Alright, so I asked you guys for your hot takes on either skateboarding in general or skate sim games, and you guys did not disappoint. We're going to get into these, and I'm going to either agree or disagree with you, so let's just get into it. I'll have some nice session. The cats are fighting right now. They choose the worst time to fight. I'm going to have some session gameplay in the background for you guys as well while I go through this, but let's get into it. So our first hot take here is from Big Revenge, who says, inward heels are worth prison time. Just stare at this comment, no reply needed. I'm gonna reply anyway because I disagree with this first hot take. I like an inward heel. I think that there are people out there who can do steezy inward heels. Are they my favorite trick in the world? No. Can I do one? No. Can they look extremely ugly? Yes. I would say maybe 90% of the time they can look really ugly. But that 10% of the time where an inward heel is just done properly, it's popped, it's kind of caught and brought around. So I don't think they're worth prison time personally. I definitely don't want to see a 360 inward heel. Don't be doing 360 inward heels. Don't be doing 360 hard flips. I think those tricks just inherently do look ugly, but I think a standard inward heel can look pretty nice, and it's a trick that you don't see very often. If someone does that down something and they make it look good, that's sick. So I don't think inward heels deserve prison time, but I do think that if you're gonna do one, make sure you do it nice, because otherwise it's gonna look pretty horrible. Next up, we have this guy, I can't pronounce that name. Skateboarding brands are starting to become worn by non-skaters. I mean, I agree. I think this is generally a true statement, but I think this has just always been a true thing. I think it's become more prevalent these days because skateboarding has become more popular and more mainstream. I think the general public thinks skateboarding is pretty cool. Younger people just wear skateboarding brands because it's cool to wear, as opposed to actually caring about the brand or skateboarding. But Thrasher hoodies get worn by everybody these days, and I guarantee that the majority of people wearing them have never opened a copy of Thrasher in their life. But I'm personally okay with this. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, about skateboarding brands being worn by non-skaters, and it's something that I have made peace with. When I was younger and I was more of like a core skate rat and I was skating every day and it was my entire persona, I would definitely get annoyed at people who wear skate clothes who don't skate, and I would probably call them a poser. And I was very much, yeah, like, I guess gatekeeping skateboarding in a way. I think we all do that when we start skating when we're younger, because it's like, this is my cool thing. I'm only gonna hang out with people who really care about skateboarding, and if you don't care about it, I don't like you, that kind of thing. But then as you get older and you've been skating for as long as I have, you start to realize that there's not a lot of money in skateboarding or the skating industry. We need non-skaters to be buying skate brand clothing, because otherwise those brands are probably going to shut their doors. If Thrasher wasn't selling hoodies to everybody, I don't think Thrasher could just rely on skaters buying their hoodies. I think that they probably make a good amount of money off non-skaters buying them, and then that money from non-skaters just goes back into the Thrasher brand, and that's a good thing at the end of the day. Look at the likes of Polar, for example. Polar are sort of their own big kind of fashion brand by this point. They're not just a skateboard brand, because Polar Big Boys are like some of the most popular pants and jeans that anyone has made. They're super expensive, and I do think they are completely overpriced. The reason that Polar are so popular and still able to stay around within skateboarding is because of all the non-skater kids and all the non-skater fashion people are buying Polar. They're buying Big Boys. They're buying Thrasher hoodies. They're buying, I think Drake was pictured in a Birdhouse hoodie at some point, but apparently it was a fake Birdhouse hoodie. But regardless, there is more non-skaters in the world than skaters. I'm okay with non-skaters wearing skate brands, because they're just funding skateboarding. As long as skateboarding is getting money and brands are staying open, I'm happy with that. Okay, next up we got Rasta Boy, who says frontside and backside overcrook exist. 100% agree. A frontside and a backside overcrook completely exist, and I think that it's just stupid to deny the existence of overcrooks. Okay, there's a difference between a nose grind and an overcrook. Overcrooks exist. Agree. Next up we got Kyo Art, who has a few hot takes here, so we're going to try and run through these quickly. First one I think is going to be pretty controversial. Strobeck ruined modern skateboarding. I have a hard time agreeing or disagreeing with this, because I definitely agree with it up to a point, but I think that the statement Strobeck ruined modern skateboarding is a little extreme, and I kind of think you're giving him too much credit that is due. I, for one, am not a fan of how William Strobeck films clips. I actually did a whole video a while ago criticizing one one of the most recent Supreme videos. I forgot what it's called, but I'll put the video up here. Criticized William Strobeck's filming through this entire video because I think that he ruined what could have been some really good clips with his incessant need to zoom in and zoom out and be all artsy fartsy and dramatic. I just can't get down with that kind of modern style of filming that he pioneered, I guess. So many good tricks are just ruined because he's too zoomed in or the camera's moving too much and it's not focusing on the trick. I go over it in that video, but there is tricks. I pause the frame as a skater is mid-trick down a stair set. The board and the skater's shoes are like way up here in the frame. If this little square that I'm in is the frame, this is about as much of the skater as you see. Hold on, this is a better example. So like the skater will be like doing the trick and he'll be there for the main part of the trick because for some reason Strobeck can't keep up with the actual skater and doesn't keep him in frame. He's focusing too much on the wrong things like the scenery and the weird people that are walking around as opposed to recording the actual skater and getting the full trick and doing the trick justice. There's been so many times William Strobeck has made big tricks on big gaps look small just because of the angle he chose to film at and how he chose to film that trick. So while I don't think he's completely ruined modern skateboarding, I'm not going to give him that much credit. I think he just started an unfortunate trend where people started trying to mimic the way that he filmed skateboarding, and it means that I just can't watch Supreme videos. If he's credited as the main filmer, I have no interest in watching that video. I know that I'll be leaving that thing feeling like I got whiplash. 99% of Skitter XL clips look like Milky's. 99% seems a bit harsh. So Milky is probably the biggest content creator in the Skitter XL scene. Milky 100% gets the most views when it comes to Skitter XL content. And a lot of those views came from Milky's tutorials. Milky, of course, has done a ton of tutorials on how to mod Skitter XL, and with that, Milky has made some really great Skitter XL XXL mod settings, so like ST settings, stats settings, things like that. He's made some really good ones and has pretty much updated them like every year. And so since most people are going to Milky for the tutorial on how to set up mods in Skitter XL, they then also conveniently download Milky's stats and settings because they are there, they're available. I think that probably the majority of Skitter XL PC players started on Milky's stats, or at least have downloaded them and have used them at some point. I think statistically that's probably accurate. I myself, and I know a lot of people, started with Milky stats and then built upon them to turn into your own stats and stees. Milky settings are like a really good baseline to build off of and then customize from there. So I think a lot of people have also done that. So I would say a lot of Skitter XL clips from newer players who haven't spent the time to customize their settings definitely likely use Milky stats and settings, and so all the tricks look the same as how Milky's tricks look in his clips because it's the exact same settings, right? But I don't think that would make up 99% because I know, again, from the clip streams, there is so many unique Skitter XL clips that get posted to the clip streams that all look completely different to each other, and the skitters have completely different stees and completely different settings. So I wouldn't say it makes up 99%. I would say it's a much lower percentage, but that's just the influence that Milky has had on Skitter XL. But no, I disagree. I don't think 99% of Skitter XL clips look like Milky's. I just think his settings are very popular. Okay, we got Mad Digital here. My session hot take is that the hardcore stats police who want to know what your settings were before deciding whether or not they liked your clip are silly and should just judge clips based on what they see with their eyes and not what the person's thumbs did to get there. If you like zero grind alignment, manual catch, etc., then have at it. But if you're trying to tell someone else they're playing with training wheels or some such stupidity for having different settings, then you're, and I forgot to screenshot this with the read more selected, I'm an idiot. But I did read this earlier and I know that it's pretty much saying that you're pretty much just gatekeeping and kind of being pretentious if you're going to come after somebody for their sessions, get some stats in a clip. I don't think that your session stats have anything to do with how good your clip is. I'm going to be equally impressed by your clip if it's zero grind alignment or if it's full grind alignment, because at the end of the day, I think the main thing with session and other skateboarding games is that what's more important to me when I'm watching your clip, and note this down when you're submitting clips to the clip stream, I guess, if you want, but what's more important to me personally is the trick selection is interesting, it's clean, it's realistic, the spot that you choose to skate at is again interesting and a nice realistic spot, and that the filming is good because I want to be able to see the trick. Good trick selection, good spot choice, good filming. I don't care if you're using zero grind alignment, manual catch, auto catch. I'm not looking for that. I don't care how hardcore your settings are, how arcadey your settings are. As long as you're having fun, that's really all that matters. But when it comes to posting clips, all I personally really care about is mostly the trick selection. If you're choosing nice, good tricks that all go together in a line, or just a nice combo trick of some sort, that's what I'm more concerned about when I'm watching your clip. I don't care about your settings. I don't think about your settings. I just want to see a good clip. If you're somebody that gatekeeps stats and thinks that if you're not using the hardest hardcore stats, you're not playing the game properly, just get over yourself. Let people use what stats they want to use. Make the game as hard as they want, or as easy as they want. So yeah, I fully agree with this statement. Crane Sauce says anybody who's too focused on posers are gatekeepers, and anybody who's too focused on gatekeeping is a poser. This one I fully agree with. I think that if you are the kind of person to bully people and call them posers because they don't skate the way you like, or because they maul grab, or because they push with the wrong foot, because they don't dress in traditional skater clothes, you 100% are a gatekeeper, and you're gatekeeping skateboarding, which is a really weird thing to do, because skateboarding has come so far and it has become so big and has opened its doors to so many different kinds of people, and I fully welcome anyone that wants to give it a try and wants to get into skateboarding. I don't care if you're not skating in a traditional way. I skate with a guy at the DIY park all the time who skates with shin pads on, who does freestyle tricks, pushes with his front foot, doesn't dress like a skater, isn't at all your traditional skater stereotype. That guy is sick. That guy constantly impresses me with his freestyle trick knowledge, and he does some of the coolest things that I've never seen before and starts whipping up trick names that I've never heard of before. So he skates a completely other way than me, and I know that people out there would call that lame. People would call him a poser, but no, he's out there doing it. He's out there skating quite frequently on his lunch break, and he's doing some of the craziest, gnarliest freestyle tricks that I would never even try, and I think that's so cool. So I think that no matter how you skate, no matter how you carry your board or push or whatever, if you're still on a board and you're enjoying yourself, then you're a skater. We've come a long way from the 80s and 90s where skateboarding was rough as hell, and if you weren't in with a specific crew, you were getting beat up and kicked out of Embarcadero Plaza, you know? So we've come a long way from there, so everyone is welcome in skateboarding now. If you're right here calling people on a skateboard posers because they don't skate how you like, you're 100% a gatekeeper, and that's more posery. And just like this hot take says, if you're too focused on gatekeeping, you are definitely more of a poser than the person you're calling a poser. Because if you have this like ego in your head that you seem to think that your way of skating and your way of thinking is the only right way, then you are 100% more of a fake than the people out here skating in a really untraditional way, you know? So yeah, I fully agree with this statement. We got Pablo here. We won't get much better simulators because it's too hard to develop and too niche of a market. This I disagree with, because we are already seeing better simulators being built right now. Fake Skate the Game is the first one that comes to mind. I've showed quite a bit of early gameplay from that in other videos on the channel, and you can already tell the amount of work that they are putting into the gameplay and to the skateboarding mechanics and the physics. I fully believe that that game is going to push skate sims further than Skater XL and Session. The great thing about the likes of Fake Skate the Game is that is being developed by ex-Skater XL modders and mod makers who have loads of experience working with Skater XL's code. They get to look back at what Skater XL did, they get to look back at what Session Skate Sim did, and they get to learn from those games, gather loads of experience from those games, and improve upon those features in this game so that they can just build a much better skate sim experience than those games were able to do. So I fully believe that we are going to see better sim games, and it is very much a niche of a market. We're never going to see a big development studio make a skate sim. It's going to stay niche. It's going to be built independently, but because the people that are working on these skate sims come from the skate sim community, they already know what's good, they already know what's bad, they already know what the people want, they already know what these games need, and so they are able to then build those features in the next variation of skate sim games. So I fully believe we are going to be seeing better skate sim games in the future, and I think that they're being made right now Okay, we got Psycho Tick. The one joystick flick system of EA Skate isn't precise enough to do the tricks you actually want consistently. Trying to pull off inward heels or hard flips regularly just feels horrible. This I agree with, because inherently one stick flick it controls is not going to be as consistent as two sticks. I think that just comes down to the design of it. Putting like all possible trick inputs into one trigger is definitely going to be a lot messier, a lot more inconsistent than spreading them across the two, one for each foot, right? So I think from a control design point of view, yes, the one stick is a lot more inconsistent, but I am currently playing a game in the Skate franchise. I have been relearning the flick it controls. I'm actually really surprised with how well that control scheme still holds up today. It's really fun to use and it feels very natural. Something about controlling your turning and rotation with the left analog stick just feels kind of inherently natural when it comes to video games. I feel like for the most part I can get pretty consistent with my tricks on the right analog stick, but there is certain tricks that are a little more inconsistent. For example, tray flips, you can end up varial flipping quite easily just because you didn't scoop enough. A varial heel, I find you can end up just doing like a front 360 shove it because you didn't flick it quite enough, and it does happen quite regularly. So there is inconsistency there, but I think that when you spend enough time with it and you play it long enough, you can get most tricks pretty regularly. Like I feel like I can hard flip pretty much every time in Skate because it's a pretty specific input, right? You do like the cross input. I think that with enough time on the control scheme, you can be consistent on both. I can go between the Skate controls, I can go between the Skater XL controls and the session controls pretty easily. I can switch between all the games, play them all one after the other and have no issues. But I do agree that it is more inconsistent than the two stick controls, just because having one stick control your scoop and your pop and then having the other control your flick opens the doors to so much more that you can do with those controls. It also just kind of gives you more room to work in without accidentally doing the wrong trick instead. But having all the trick inputs on one analog stick, you kind of end up doing a slightly wrong movement and then it'll just automatically trigger the wrong trick. And I think that when Skate releases and we all start playing Skate again, I think people who haven't used that control scheme in a while are going to be surprised of how well it still holds up. Okay, we got SSLTDC, who says no one is actually looking forward to Skate 4 coming out because it's a free-to-play sandbox with Fortnite skins and no story or skate culture like the first three. Session is the way forward, it just needs grabs and better vert physics. I disagree. I think that people are looking forward to Skate 4 coming out. I am looking forward to Skate 4 coming out. I don't mind it being free to play. I don't mind it being sandbox because it just means that I have an open world to skate around. The Fortnite skin stuff, there is leaks out there, whether you've seen them or not. There is leaks out there of the in-game store. They are currently playtesting the store and microtransactions in Skate. And I mean, some of the devlog gameplay has also shown this. There is kind of Fortnite-esque skins with like masks and stuff and kind of crazy outfits and things like that. Definitely to cater towards a younger audience and a Fortnite kind of like audience who will definitely get their parents to buy them Skate credits to buy these skins. So from a business perspective, it's smart because it's going to work. But I'm going to stay away from those kind of skins. I'm just going to dress my skater in realistic, cool clothes, baggy jeans, baggy t-shirt. I'm not really going into Skate 4 to be immersed in a real skating experience. I think that Session and Modded Skater XL are much more immersive. And I think that after Skate 2, the Skate series kind of lost its way anyway. The first two games were very much kind of deep in skate culture and very kind of nitty gritty kind of skate rad vibes, and that was so cool. But Skate 3 became very sterile and they could reach out to non-skaters and things like that, which is why Skate 3 then was much more sterile, much more of a commercial game. So the fact that Skate 4 is more of the same makes complete sense, because again, they are trying to please a much wider audience, non-skaters and skaters alike. I still think that we're going to see some skate culture elements in there. I think that they're going to throw in a lot of real life skate spots like they did in the Skate 3 map. They're going to have a lot of real life skate brands. So there is going to be some skate culture in there. It's just going to be much more commercialized, much more washed down. I think Session was the way forward. I don't think it is anymore. I think that the devs have shown us that it's not really going anywhere. I think that if they had stuck with the development, and maybe they will come out with a big update at some point, but if they stuck with the development, they did add things like grabs, better vert physics, and they just worked on that game more, it definitely would still be considered the way forward. But I think the way it is now is Session has it's done a lot for the skate sim scene and it's pushed the genre forward, but now it's hit a wall And now we just have to wait and see what the next iteration of skate sim games are going to do for the genre. Okay, next up we have Cheesehead, who says pop Shuvits look cleaner than kickflips. I'm going to disagree with this. I love a pop shove it. I'm a big pop shove it guy, okay? I'm a pop shove it activist. I'm somebody that does a lot of pop shove it's, especially frontside pop shove it's. That's like my go-to trick. And I do them more than I do kickflips because I'm lazy and sometimes I don't feel like kickflipping my board. But I think a really steezy, popped, boned, flip really nicely, cod back foot kickflip will pretty much always look 10 times nicer than the best super popped, you know, front foot catch pop shove it, just because the kickflip's a bit more of a aesthetically pleasing trick. I think a really good kickflip into something, out of something, just on flat will always be more impressive than a really good pop shove it. And I love pop shove it's in the manuals. I love pop shove it's in the grinds. I love a good steezy kind of stanky leg pop shove it catch. I think it looks great, but I think I'd much rather be impressed and be stoked to see a really, really good kickflip over a really, really good pop shove it. Okay, now Mr. Cutthroat is coming through with a pretty hot one. I think this is one that's quite open for discussion, so please do let me know what you think in the comments. Pros are getting worse at skateboarding. And honestly, I agree with this statement, and I'm going to explain why. So skateboarding has really changed a lot in recent years. We're a long way from the humble beginnings of skateboarding, and we are definitely a long way from the traditional way of becoming a pro skater. So a traditional pro skater, say like Andrew Reynolds, say Jimmy Thomas, Jeff Riley, I'm just pulling out random names from my head. These guys obviously turned pro many years ago, where in order to turn pro, you had to be like the best of the best. You had to be dropping video parts of some of the best skating people have ever seen. I'm talking like 90s, 2000s, 2010s even, before social media basically. You had to be one of the elite best skaters in the game to turn pro. Skateboarding was really such a niche that like the only form of skateboarding content people were getting were physical skate videos, right? 411 tapes, actual VHS full-length videos. And then obviously eventually it went to DVDs, but people were going out of their way to buy the full-length video from a company that they liked. That's how you consumed skateboarding media back in the day. And that was like really the only type of skateboarding media that there was full-length skate videos. So in order to be turned pro by that company, you would be dropping the best possible footage that you can of the best skating in those video parts up until eventually you got lucky and turned pro. And people knew your name and people bought your board because they saw your skating in those videos and they couldn't stop watching it. They couldn't stop thinking, this guy is one of the best skaters I've ever seen. That's how you turn pro traditionally. Nowadays, since the introduction of social media, I would say that the most common form of skateboarding content consumption is probably Instagram. I would say Instagram is where most people watch their skating, and I would say that more people are watching skating clips on Instagram multiple times a day over going to YouTube and watching a full-length part. You just pull it up on your phone and you're going to be greeted by a bunch of skate clips from people that you follow. But Instagram is like the place for skateboarding content, right? It has been for quite a few years now. So because skateboarding has moved on with the times, full parts now come out on YouTube. Favorite skater post clips on Instagram daily. You no longer need to wait to purchase the VHS just to watch your favorite skater skate. Now you can just go on Instagram and you have endless clips to watch. So in the modern world, becoming a pro skater is more based on how relevant you are on social media, how many clips you upload, how many likes and follows you get from those clips, over how good of a skater you are. Now, you still need to be a good skater to be pro. Obviously, they're not just turning companies, don't just turn anyone pro. You still need to be a good skater and be able to post good clips that people like. But it's more about your likability and it's more about your marketability. Is that a word? If people really like you, they like your personality, and your name is relevant, your name gets follows, then of course a company is going to put your name on a board and they're going to start paying you because they know those boards are going to sell. A skate company is only going to turn you pro if they can make money off your name. That's how a business works. They're not going to put all these resources, time and money into you unless they can make more money back, right? It's business 101. So nowadays it's definitely more about how recognizable your name is and how many followers you have on social media over your skill as a skateboarder. The skating skill bar to be pro has definitely been lowered. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it might annoy some people to see somebody go pro who just, I don't know, who just does a lot of slappies or something like that, who does a lot of low impact skating, compared to the likes of someone like Andrew Reynolds, who is known for doing big gaps, frontside flipping, massive gaps. Because back in the day, to be pro, you had to be pulling out the biggest gaps, the biggest tricks, because your footage was only going to get seen every now and then when a full part was being released and people were getting that DVD, or they had to wait until the full length was on YouTube. People were waiting to see your clips, so you had to pull out the best possible stops so that the wait was worth it. Nowadays, people don't want to wait. Our attention spans have become smaller, so now it's more about how many clips can you upload on Instagram every week. No matter if it's a slappy or it's a tray flip down El Toro, if I see you coming up on my Instagram feed every single day, you're going to be fresh in my mind. Your name is going to be relevant to me, and also the thousands and millions of other people that follow you. So there's going to be more eyes on you, which means then if a company turns you pro, your board is going to sell so much more than a pro who doesn't release footage as much. And I think that is just the reality of it now. If you get a kid who's just started skating and you put in front of them either, I don't even think this guy's pro, but I'm just doing it as a bad example, Burberry Airy, have one of his boards, and then you have an Andrew Reynolds Baker board in front of a kid, I can almost guarantee you that that kid is probably going to go with a Burberry Airy board, right? Because one, he's probably going to be skating for a more modern kind of trending brand. And two, because that kid already follows Burberry on Instagram. That kid sees Burberry clips all the time and thinks he's the coolest guy. As far as that kid's concerned, Andrew Reynolds is some washed up pro that maybe he saw a clip of once before, but he's not really concerned about Andrew Reynolds. He's concerned about what this new kid on the block is doing, what trendy tricks he's doing on Instagram. The kid's going to buy the Burberry Airy board, right? And so a board company nowadays is more likely going to turn the person whose name is worth like 1 million followers pro over somebody who might be the best skater but only has like 10,000 followers on Instagram and doesn't get as many likes. So yeah, I think that the rise of social media means that the bar to become a pro skater has been lowered when it comes to skateboarding skill level. It's more about how trendy you are as a person over how good you are on a skateboard. But that being said, I still think that because skateboarding has become so big now and so many people are welcome, it doesn't bother me to see somebody who only does slappies turn pro compared to somebody who does big gaps, because I think that skateboarding is just so big now that there's just two completely different ends of the spectrum, and you can be on either one. You can be the most crazy Nigel Houston like skater doing insane stuff, or you can be a more chill, low impact skater, and you can both still be doing so much good for skateboarding and pushing skateboarding forward. And I'll probably buy your board just because I like you and I like the way you skate, regardless of your skill level. Okay, and that is us. Thank you to everybody that submitted their hot take, and please discuss in the comments anything from today's video. I want to know what you guys agree with. I want to know what you guys disagree with. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, I will catch you in the next video. Peace.